Welcome to Tangi's Tapestry, where spirituality, law, motherhood, and relationships weave into a rich and meaningful discussion. I'm your host, Tangi, a mother, daughter, sister, friend, and an avid entrepreneur. Join me as I share my personal journey, explore faith-based discussions, and offer valuable legal insights. Each episode is designed to inspire, empower, and connect with individuals on their unique path. So let's dive into today's topic and embark on this journey together. Hey, welcome back to another episode of Tangi's Tapestry. I'm your host, Tangi, and we are winding down to the end of season 2. This episode is the second to last episode before I close it up. I actually was supposed to end the episodes back in May, but for some reason I did not do that. So this will be the month that I conclude. So episode 10, that's the episode we're in right now, is going to be like basically the last of the episodes of this season, but I will have a bonus episode for the end of this month that just kind of wraps up and recaps this season and then talks about what we're going to be doing in season 3. So this, like I said, is kind of like that last episode of the season. And I wanted to just shift gears because I had been talking about so much personal stuff. I wanted to just give you guys a little bit of some practical legal, conversation about estate planning. And so that's what this episode will be. And like I said, the the last episode for this season, which I guess it'd be like episode 11, but it's really going to be just like the conclusion of this season because this summer is going to be jam packed. I had thought about going on throughout the summer and just doing podcasts, but I'm going to be traveling and there's a lot of things going on this summer, and so I wanted to just wrap it up, and then I will come back in the fall for season 3. And hopefully, I'll have some more interesting topics, a lot more guest speakers. I had a few guest speakers on this season, but I just had a lot going on, you guys, if I'm being honest. And so I didn't plan properly. And that's kind of like what this is. This episode is about planning. But I juggle so many things, you guys, and so but I don't want to neglect my podcast, so I have to keep putting out content. Whether or not I reach out and get a guest speaker or not, I got to put something out. So, but hopefully season 3 is going to be a little bit more organized and put together. But nevertheless, let me move on because I already spent like 3 minutes almost talking about about what I'm going to be doing in season 3. So, like I said, episode 10, we're gonna go ahead and talk about a legal topic, which is planning for incapacity, and that has to deal with like estate planning, so power of attorneys and advanced directives. And we are going to be discussing how these different types of documents are essential for protecting yourselves and your loved ones. And this is good. This is a good topic for any adult, whether you're a parent, a married couple, a college student, business owner, um, whatever you may be. This might be a good topic for you. So if you haven't had a chance, I do suggest you go take a listen to any of the prior episodes of this season if you have a chance to do so. Um, keep in mind that this episode is for educational purposes only. I'm not providing you any legal advice, nor am I creating any type of client attorney relationship. But if you do have specific legal questions about estate planning, I would advise that you reach out to a legal or a licensed attorney in your state. And if you're in Maryland or DC, feel free to contact me and we can talk a little bit more about estate planning. Okay. So the scripture for this episode is found in Proverbs 16:3, and it reads, "Commit to the Lord whatever you do, and He will establish your plans." So as we, plan for the unexpected, let's just remember that um, we need to be making sure that we go to God with our planning, whether it's estate planning, whether it's planning for a business, or planning to go to school, or planning for to get in a relationship with somebody, whatever that plan might be. You want to make sure you commit those plans to the Lord so that He can establish them, that He can make sure that you're on the right path. Because a lot of times, sometimes we plan things for ourselves that are not of benefit, and it's not what God wants us to be doing. So, but I do think that God honors us when we plan, especially estate planning, when we make sure that we set ourselves up for, you know, the future for our family. I think that is wisdom when we are embarking on estate planning. Okay, so nevertheless, let's move it along here. Why do we need to plan for seasons of um, incapacity, or not really seasons, but in the event that you become incapacitated? Why do we need to plan for that? Well, first of all, incapacity means that you're mentally or you're physically unable to make decisions for yourselves. So, if you don't have some proper documents in place, then guess who's going to be deciding who handles your finances or your medical care? It's going to probably be the court. And that's probably not going to be ideal for your family because there's a lot of fees and expenses and time. I mean, if especially if time is of the essence and you need something, your family needs to be able to do stuff really quick in the event that you become incapacitated and you can't do something for yourself anymore. They're not probably going to have time to be trying to go to the court and file stuff. Okay, so if you have an accident or an illness, or um, you have a sudden stroke or something like that, it can leave your family, um, in a situation if you don't have, proper documents in place. And so you want to make sure that you are, you know, planning for these things to happen. Okay. And I think that it provides you with a peace of mind when you have a clear plan in place, that can protect your assets. Um, it can make sure that your family honors your wishes. And it also takes off the burden of your family having to figure things out, right? So, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about power of attorneys. There are a few different types of power of attorneys, and one of those power of attorneys is a general power of attorney. Then you have a limited power of attorney, and then you have a durable power of attorney. And so, with the general power of attorney, basically what that is, it grants a person that you appoint to act as your agent. It grants them a broad authority to act on your behalf. So they can pay your bills, they can manage your real estate transactions, they can handle your banking, they can file taxes for you, they can even run your business if you're a business owner. Um, Typically, the general power of attorney becomes effective immediately upon signing, but it terminates if you become incapacitated, unless you specify otherwise. So, in that document, unless you put language in there that says it doesn't terminate upon becoming incapacitated, then then it will still continue to go on. And a general power of attorney is a good document to have, and it's used mostly for like short term needs. So like if you're going to be traveling or you're having surgery, or there's like a specific transaction when you physically are unavailable to handle that, that's when a general power of attorney is comes into play. Um, Whereas with a durable power of attorney, um, this one can be just as broad as a general power of attorney, but there's one critical difference with with the durable power of attorney, and that is it remains in effect even if you become mentally or physically incapacitated. But like I said, even in the general power of attorney, you can add in language that kind of makes it like a durable power of attorney. But with the durable power of attorney, you have to it has to include a durability clause, such as like this power of attorney shall not be affected by my subsequent disability or incapacity, right? So it's I think the differences between the durable and the general is that language in there. So the durable power of attorney is usually used in cases where um, you're dealing with long-term planning. So it's going to protect you if you like suffer from a serious illness or an accident or um, you know, you eventually like down the road were to suffer from like dementia or things like that. Any, it just kind of ensures that someone you can trust is going to be able to manage your affairs without having to deal with the courts getting involved. Okay. And so, for a durable power of attorney, you definitely want to make sure you're well, I'll talk a little bit more about the key components of each one, but I just wanted to tell you the differences with that. And then with the limited power of attorney, so I don't forget, the limited power of attorney, that's more for like just a specific task. So if you just want someone to help you with selling your home or selling a vehicle, and maybe you had to travel or something happened, you can give someone just a limited power of attorney where they can only do just that specific task that you ask. So it does not give them a broad authority to do all the other things that the general or the durable power of attorney can do. So basically, when you're dealing with power of attorneys, some of the things that you want to consider, especially like for a durable power of attorney, is you're wanting to choose someone who has integrity, um, who has financial wisdom, or they know what they're doing with finances. Okay, because they are going to be able to make major decisions if you can't. So you don't want to appoint an agent to act on behalf of you if you become incapacitated to handle your taxes or your banking or transactional, like financial transactions, selling property or whatever it might be. You don't want to choose somebody who is not good with money. Okay. So you definitely want to choose somebody who you can trust. And a lot of times it's often like your spouse or a parent or an adult child who's responsible. And then the triggering event, so for like if you're going to be drafting, for example, like a durable power of attorney, there's certain language in there that you want to also make sure you consider. Is when does this take effect? So when does this document kick in, right? And that there's two options. One, it can take effect immediately, or it can spring into play upon a doctor's certification of incapacity. Um, and oftentimes I have clients who want it just to be immediately. So as soon as they sign it, it's effective and they don't have to wait for a doctor to certify that the person is incapacitated, because that might take time. But then again, you also have to, again, it goes back to that piece of making sure that the person that you pick is someone you trust, because if you make it effective immediately, that means that they have power right now. that they don't have to wait to start using your power of attorney in the event they don't have to wait for you to become incapacitated, right? Because they have this document. So again, it's somebody you trust because you don't want this person to be able to just go and wipe out your bank accounts or any of that. And of course, there's things, in play that can kind of try to protect you from those things. But uh, it's just good to just, like I said, make sure you're trusting someone, especially if you're going to be um, putting the language in there that makes it effective immediately and not springing upon like a doctor certification. Okay. And so again, you want to make sure you're taking into account the scope of authority that you want in a power of attorney. So, you know, if it's paying bills, managing investments, handling taxes. I know here in Maryland there is a statutory power of attorney. So in that statutory power of attorney, it lists out all of the things that an individual that you grant authority to act on your behalf can do. So it's just by statute. Like whoever fills out that form, they're going to be able to do all of those things unless you limit it and you do like a limited power of attorney. And so those are just some things you want to, consider when you are dealing with power of attorneys. Oh, and then another thing is um, you can always revoke either of these documents at any time while you're still competent. Okay. So you would just need to notify the person that you appointed as your agent in writing. And then you want to try to retrieve all the copies just to make it known that you no longer want this document to be in effect. Okay, so here's an example of a scenario of how a power of attorney might come into play, and especially with like a general power of attorney versus a durable power of attorney. So like imagine like you execute only like a general power of attorney before you had to like travel abroad, right? And you're fine until some kind of accident leaves you unconscious. Well, since you have since your general power of attorney lapse at incapacity, then your family is going to have to go to court and appoint a guardian to manage your affairs, and that, like I said, can be very costly and time consuming. So if you have a general or durable power of attorney, that would avoid that situation from happening. So, I think a lot of times it's best to consider a durable power of attorney versus the general one, unless you have that language in there, like I mentioned earlier. So because what you don't want to have is a power of attorney where you still end up having to go to court, right? So, um, it's best to make sure that your power of attorney or your power of attorney is one that has the language that deals with um, that it deals with what happens to you. Or let me see how I can rephrase that. It's best to have a power of attorney that takes effect immediately and that it's tailored to even if you're not incapacitated now. Um, but that if you do become incapacitated, it is still good, um, even in that instance. Okay, if that makes sense. So just make sure that you're choosing the right power of attorney, um, because you want to make sure that you're managing your finances and your assets no matter what happens to you in this life, because none of us are promised to always be in our right mind. And so anything could happen. And so it's good to make sure that you have a power of attorney that's going to protect you and your assets and finances. Okay. And some of the things that you want to avoid are, naming people who don't want to be an agent or who are not qualified to be an agent. You want to make sure that your power of attorney does not have vague language in it, because then it could create disputes. And I think that's why, like here in Maryland, we have this statutory power of attorney that is if you use that form, it should be honored by, any bank that you go to, or whatever the transaction that your agent is trying to make. It should be honored because it's a statutory form, um, used by the state. Now, if you create, if you have a power of attorney that's you create yourself, or you do it yourself. People are out here doing these do it yourself estate planning documents. If it's missing things, you might encounter issues where a bank or something won't honor it, and then you're going to be in some issues. So, or somebody won't honor it, right? So, it's just best to use, the statutory one. If your state has a statutory power of attorney, you're not using an attorney to help you, I would say use that. Okay. Um, and then failure to make sure that it's notarized or witnessed, that it has the signatures witnessed. So you want to make sure you have your witnesses and stuff. And again, every state is different, so you got to make sure with your state what the formalities are to make sure that the power of attorney that you're creating, especially if you're doing it by yourself, that you're creating it to make sure that it's valid. Okay, so it's notarized, witnesses if it's needed. Make sure you have those things. All right, so let's move it along from the power of attorney. Um, the next document that I wanted to briefly talk about is the Advanced Medical Directive. And it's also known as a living will in some other jurisdictions or states. But what does a advanced medical directive do? It basically expresses your wishes about life-saving treatment. So whether you want to be resuscitated, if you want to be hooked on ventilators or you don't want to be, whether or not you want feeding tubes, if you don't, if you want to be kept alive with, medication, all of these things are placed in a advanced medical directive. And so if you become incapacitated and you can't make these decisions for yourself and you're in a coma or something, this plan is going to tell your appointed agent. So it's going to be someone who you appoint to make medical decisions for you on your behalf. Then this is going to allow them to make sure that they're having your wishes honored. And this document is going to have those instructions in there about what specific treatment you do or you don't want, to happen, or to be provided to you in the event that something happens and you can't make those decisions. Okay. So when you're creating, an advanced medical directive, then, you want to identify the values and the goals that you want. So, like, what kind of quality of life you want to have, what comfort level you want to have, what your spiritual considerations are. Um, when you're discussing, with your loved ones or your physicians about, I guess, your wishes. This particular document is going to, have all of that in there so your loved ones and your physicians know what it is that you want your care to be if you become incapacitated. There are some, um, most states have, an advanced medical directive or a living will that you can fill out online. So special, so if you are not using an attorney to draft one for you, I would say use those forms. They are, pretty standard, and then you would just fill them out and just make sure that they're filled out properly, that they have the right, signatures on them, witnesses if it's required or whatever. And then you want to make sure that when you do an advanced medical directive, that you're updating it after you have major life events. So if you get married, if you have children, if you receive a diagnosis, you definitely want to make sure that you update your advanced medical directive if you already have one. I suggest my clients take a look at their estate planning documents, their power of attorneys, their advanced medical directives every 5 years or so. Take a look at them. Just make sure that the person that you appointed as your agent is still, alive and here, or they still want to do the job, or not job, but they still want to be your agent, right? So, you just want to make sure you're just, taking a look at those things every, like I said, 5 years or so. All right. And so once you create your power of attorney and your advanced directives, you want to make sure that you are keeping them in a safe place, right? um, that you provide a copy possibly to your agents so they know that, because one thing you don't want to do is create a power of attorney or an advanced medical directive and you don't give it to anybody, you don't tell anybody where it's at, and then you become incapacitated and nobody knows you have these documents, and then people are in court fighting on how to handle your finances in your medical care. Meanwhile, you have a document sitting somewhere hidden and nobody knows anything about it, right? So make sure you're providing, maybe even copies of your advanced medical directives to your physicians. Those are some things you want to make sure that you do when you create these documents. Um, you can even file a copy with, if you did it through an attorney, you can file a copy with or you can keep a copy with your attorney. You can upload them to like some type of secure portal if you need to, and just let somebody, like I said, the key thing is to let somebody know that you have these documents. And most of the time, it's the agents that you've appointed for these for the power of attorney or the advanced medical directive. And so that's pretty much all that I wanted to talk to you about. Um, I would say that planning for, incapacity, it's not just for elderly people or even people with, known illnesses. I know sometimes people think like, oh my God, I just got this diagnosis, or or they're planning for their elderly parents or something, and they're doing a power of attorneys or advanced medical directives. But no, it's a responsibility that we all share. I think we all need to have powers of attorney and advanced medical directives. Um, believe it or not, you should probably even have these for your college students, your children who are going off to college, because we're so used to as parents, like doing everything for our children, right? And then when they turn 18, they are adults. And when they become an adult, if something happens to them, we cannot just go and start taking money out of their accounts or doing this for them or doing that for them without the proper paperwork, if they're not able to do it for themselves, if they become incapacitated or something like that. So you could even make sure that your children that are going off to college have a power of attorney in place or have an advanced medical directive in place. I remember when my daughter had to go have surgery out on her arm when she was in college and when she was in med school or vet school. I'm sorry, not vet school. And I had to fill out paperwork at the hospital to just say that I could make decisions on her behalf if something happened. And even though I'm her parent, I still, because she's an adult, I had to sign an advanced medical directive there at the hospital. And then it made me think I should be making sure my children have advanced medical directives in place because I can't always act on their behalf, even though I'm their mother. So those are just some things to think about. When it comes to power of attorneys and advanced medical directives. And then, by setting up durable powers of attorneys and, advanced medical directives, you are committing your plans to the Lord and safeguarding your family's future. I believe that the Lord wants us to plan properly for our lives. And I think that having these documents in place are a part of being responsible, using wisdom and making sure that we have things in place that is needed for our family. And so I hope that was helpful information for you. If you are in Maryland or in DC and you need assistance drafting these documents, feel free to reach out. You can reach out to me. You could drop a comment or you can schedule a consultation at turnerlegalsolutions.com. I am licensed in both those jurisdictions and I'm ready to help you, plan for your future um, in the event that you become incapacitated. So that's all. Like I said, the last episode, which would be a couple weeks from now, I'll just be wrapping up season two, discussing a little bit about what's to expect in season three. And I'm just so grateful that you guys have continued on with me in this journey of podcasting. It is not an easy task, especially when you juggle so many different things. And, I am prayerful that the Lord will bring upon me a team of people to help me navigate some of my business ventures and things that I have, in the works for the future. And so that's all, you guys. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, so you never miss an episode of Tangi's Tapestry. And like I said, next week, or not next week, but the following week after next, I'm gonna just do the wrap up. And until then, you guys take care. Be blessed. Stay prayed up. I know we're living in some crazy times. Things are a little crazy these days. But just keep on the straight and narrow, and keep committing your plans to the Lord. Have a blessed week, you guys. Thank you for joining me on this journey through Tangi's Tapestry. I hope you enjoyed this week's episode. Remember, new episodes drop every second and fourth Monday, so be sure to subscribe and stay tuned for more heartfelt discussions, personal stories, and valuable legal insight. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider sharing it with your family, friends, and followers. Your support means the world to me as I strive to create meaningful content that inspires and empowers. Well, until next time, take care and remember to weave your own unique story into the tapestry of life. See you on the next episode of Tangi's Tapestry.